Hello, my name is Joss, and this is Champagne Knits. This is my first ever attempt at a knitting podcast, and hopefully this sees the light of day, and hopefully there's a second one. I got the idea of making a knitting podcast because over the course of the pandemic, I have so enjoyed watching knitting podcasts, and I know these have been going on for ages, but it was the first time that I personally really got into them. I found over the course of the pandemic, with not working as much and working more from home and seeing my friends less, that I was able to sort of have that feeling of togetherness and community with knitting podcasters, and I found it a great comfort and was hoping that I could be a bigger part of that community. Anyhow, I'm located in Montreal, Canada. I'm a mom of 4. My kids are 21, 9, 8, and 5. And for work, I own a small gourmet grocery shop. And we sell craft beer, hot sauces, fancy little products to elevate your dinner. So I'm a very, very busy lady. I'm married as well, and I stay up late and like to have a glass of sparkling wine, champagne, and knit in the bits and pieces of my very busy life. So my favorite setup for a knitting podcast is when people show their finished objects. Sorry, my eyes are darting around a bit. It's a beautiful autumn day in Montreal, and people are walking their dogs around the neighborhood. And I am a little distracted, but I also feel a little silly talking to my phone. So my favorite, back to what I was saying, setup for a knitting podcast is when people show their finished objects and their works in progress and their yarn acquisitions. That is my favorite order for things, and that way if people aren't feeling the acquisitions, they can just skip the very end of the video. And yeah, I don't know if I plan on doing a whole lot of chit chat or if it's going to be mostly the yarn talk. I'll see what happens organically with that. Anyway, so here goes nothing. This is a finished object that I'm wearing right now. It is the Sipila sweater. I think that's how it is said. It is Caitlin Hunter of Boyline Knits sweater. And I don't even know if I will mention this yarn because the company no longer exists. You cannot get it. So I don't know if it's worth mentioning, because it always makes me sad when I can just look at all the things that were knit with that now defunct yarn. But this beautiful light green is Arctic Crafts. It is their sock yarn. I actually discovered Arctic Crafts because Inga of Knitting Traditions had a coupon code. I don't know if that's still going on, but I bought a bunch of sock yarn, and I had every intention, I think, because I bought this in seafoam in both the sock yarn and the mohair, and I was intending perhaps on making a ranunculus with it, but that was not to be because I just fell in love with how it looked with this black spruce. I actually don't even remember the name of the yarn, but it is defunct, so you cannot get it. The colorway is black spruce, and I fell in love with the green on green, sort of the deep moody green and the pop of color fun green. And I don't know how many people are into this, but I am a dark winter. That is my seasonal profile for what colors suit me. And I was actually color draped, which you have a color analyst come to your house with various scarves, and she holds it up to your face, and your hair is pulled back, and you're wearing like a very bland, like gray tarp, and she sees how each color affects you. And now I have a dark winter fan, and all the colors in the fan are the colors that sort of make my skin seem flawless. None of those red patches will come out when you're wearing the colors that you're most in harmony with. I know I could be explaining that better, but I'm not in any way an expert. My daughter, I'm sure you'll see pictures of her, because if I keep doing this, I will most definitely show you things that I knit for her. And she is a true winter. And her colors, while very similar to mine, are brighter and clearer. So she would also suit various greens, but her colors, instead of being this deep jewel tone green, her color would be a truer, brighter, clearer green with no darkness in it. Not darkness, no shade in it. It would just be the clearest, most bright, clear color. Maybe I'll have to edit this out. It feels like a mess to describe this. You know, you're really into something and you get it perfectly, but not entirely sure that you can explain it. That's what's going on here. So I fell in love with how these two colors went together, and I knit it, and I knit the medium size. This is the thing. Over the course of the pandemic, I put on a little bit of weight. Quarantine 15, it's not a big deal. It doesn't matter. But I used to always wear a small top, and now I think I'm like closer to a medium. Although I do feel this, wearing the ugliest jogging pants right now. I didn't think that they were going to make an appearance in this video, but it is a little cropped, and I knit it exactly as the pattern described. So perhaps I would have knitted a little longer if I were to do it all over again. But anyway, the pattern is perfect and so easy, and I really was in love with it. My second finished object is also a second and third, because I was mentioning Inga of Knitting Traditions, and I'm going to mention her again because she is my podcasting best friend. I just love her podcast, and I feel like while I have her on, it's like having a friend chatting to me, in my living room. So I knit the Selbu cow. It is her pattern, and she showed it. This is super disappointing because this is all vintage yarn. And by vintage, I mean it could be potentially more in the realm of antique. I don't know what this is. A friend gave it to me over 20 years ago when he was getting divorced and his wife moved away after they broke up, and she left a bag of yarn, and he knew that I was a knitter, and he gave me her yarn. And she is from Finland, or was from Finland. I never do her. So this wool is super rustic, and it is perfect for Inga's Selbu cowl, but I have no idea what it was. I love this pattern so much. As you can see, I was talking about the whole color analyzing. Brown is not my best color. If you can see that the shadows in my face become more evident with these sort of like murky, more autumn colors, and the clearer colors of winter suit me a lot better. It's not a huge sample, so maybe it's not that evident, But then I love that pattern so much. I'm going to show you something that is a little messed. So I made a second Selbu cowl, and I made this with Ralmo Fino, and also a rustic yarn, nice and itchy. And in terms of rustic yarns, I love rustic yarns. I'm not anti superwash, but I love a rustic yarn for two reasons. I find it forgiving when you're knitting. I find I love to do color work, and I find that it's so smooth, and the fabric it makes in color work is so much nicer than a superwash yarn. And I made this for my son because he saw it, and he had remembered a cowl that I made him. I made him an oat from Tin Can Knits a few years ago, and he lost it, and he was super sad. So he saw mine, and he's like, "Oh, actually, can you make me one like yours?" And so I knit it in Fino, and it's quite itchy for a little boy. He's 8 years old, but he likes it. He just, I guess, won't wear it super close to his face. These are how these colors look on me. It's not a little less in harmony than the sweater I'm wearing, I find, but still quite good. I find that, you know, it's not just me. I've heard many people saying this, that I have trouble knitting in colors that I wouldn't knit in for myself. Even though I knit a pair of socks for my mom, it's also a finished object from the last month, but they were in a pastel blue. I got it in a sock crate, and pastel blue is my least favorite color. It makes me look like so washed out, and I just did a vanilla sock pattern. Usually I can knit up a pair of vanilla socks, like a sock a day, no matter how little time I have, just like in the bits and pieces while my husband's driving me to work, but it just took me days and days to finish them, just because the color was not making my eyes happy. Yes. I also have another finished object, but I do not have it with me because I gave it to my daughter, who lives here. I'm filming outside of my house because I live with my 4 children. My 21-year-old daughter's boyfriend is here more often than not. He doesn't officially live here, although he did during the height of the pandemic, and he's here now. And my husband, who more often than not these days works from home. So also two standard poodles, 3 cats, 2 birds. It's a madhouse in there. And I honestly, when I first got the idea that I might try my hand at this, I thought to myself, there's no way. I would have to stay up till 2 in the morning to get some quiet time, long enough to do it. I'm also, right now it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and 2 of my school-age children are home because I am homeschooling them. It's new. We just started homeschooling during the pandemic. Sorry, thought my husband was driving by, but it's just the same car as our car. It's not our car. And so we homeschooled last year, and this year I decided to try it again, even though I have gone back to work at my shop. I don't know how long that will be sustainable for, because I'm doing what I refer to now as shop schooling, and we'll see if I can keep doing that. We'll see if it continues to work for them and their education. Just a bit of black tea that was hot and is no longer hot, because fall is definitely in the air here in Montreal, If I had to guess, it's 15 degrees Celsius. Moving right along. I have no idea about the pacing of this. I feel like I might be talking a little fast. We'll see. Whips. I have which one will I show first? I'm sorry. I'm getting my act together. This is a pattern by Dear Ingenue. It is a swancho, which is a combination between a sweater and a poncho, which I love that idea. And I'm going to show one more time because these bird skulls are fantastic. I love them. This yarn is Madeline Tosh Edison Bulb. It's a DK weight. And this is Owlette. The colorway is called Albertine, I think. And it is by Quince & Co. I am almost finished this. I've separated for the sleeves, which are quite low down. This is, I am knitting the extra small, and I'm knitting it for my 9-year-old son. I'm almost finished. I measured the width of his body, and it should be 22 inches. I flip back and forth between the imperial and metric system, like so many Canadians do. But it should be 22 inches long. And I think I'm maybe at 20 right now. And then just the sleeves, which will be knit up very quickly because he is 9, and even though he's tall for his age, he is still 9. I am loving this pattern. I think it's I'm doing it as part of a Darkness Falls knit along. So Dear Ingenue has many patterns with that bird skull motif, and earlier in October, or maybe even at the end of September, she started a cowl, and I bought all of the patterns because my 9-year-old son is an avid birder. He loves birds. He is a carnivore, but he refuses to eat any birds. Birds are friends, not food to him. And he is just thrilled, and he can't wait for me to get these off the needles. My second, and this, I'm very excited about this because it's almost finished, and honestly, it would have been finished by now if Donovan, my 9-year-old, hadn't been rushing me on his sweater. This, oh my gosh, I just saw it on camera. Total newbie mistake. I'm going to tell you that I don't usually go in for hand-dyed yarns that are very multicolored, like this is. This is by a wonderful dyer local to me. Her name is Annie Perrine, I think. If she ever gets to see this, I hope I did not mangle your last name there. But I follow her because I know her and her husband from coming to my shop. They shop in my little shop, and I see her and her lovely family all the time. So I started following her on Instagram, and this was never the kind of yarn that I would buy except for socks. I never knit a large garment of like multicolored dyed yarns. Like, I know this is a hand dyed yarn, both of these, but they're all more similar colors, and it's a long way to say that I do not usually alternate skeins. I know that's kind of frowned upon, and I feel very bad now because I wasn't sure if it was evident when I was looking at my, oh, somebody decided to leave me alone. Okay, so I had to stop the video and wait until my husband went to pick up our youngest. So that means I'm gonna have to wrap up this video because my youngest goes to kindergarten close by. So all that rambling was just a way to say that I don't usually alternate my skeins of yarn. And I had ordered sock yarn, or not even sock yarn that I intended to use for socks for Manny, and it was beautiful and it was multicolored and wonderful, and I did knit socks with it, and I don't have them nearby because it wasn't super recent. But then she had a shop update of she dyes pop culture inspired yarn, so it was all of the colorways are named after Taylor Swift songs. And I'm not a fan, but I don't really know much of Taylor Swift's music. So this colorway is called Lakes, the Lakes. And I initially ordered 2 skeins. And when I saw it in person, I just fell in love with it. And I know that I said pale blue is my least favorite color in the world. And no, I still don't think it suits me, but there was something about the green. And green, I suppose my favorite colors to wear are dark green, navy, and royal blue, maybe a garnet, maybe the color of my lipstick. But anyway, I digress. And this color just made my eyes so happy, because the lightest of blue is not a pastel blue. It's an icy blue, which is just a clearer, nicer color to me, but I did not alternate the skeins. And I had to order more because I initially didn't expect this to be a sweater. And now, in the light of day, when I'm not in my bedroom, I can see that this needed me to alternate skeins. And I might now rip it back entirely. This beautiful, beautiful t-shirt pattern, I'm almost done. I just have to do the ribbing on the bottom and the sleeves. Unless, of course, now I decide to rip it back. I'm honestly gonna get it onto those, I don't know what they're called, these things, and try it on before I make a decision, I think. Yeah, but I'm a little bummed. I'm not gonna lie. So much gray hair. So I initially bought 2 skeins and thought that I would make some accessories for one of my kids, and decided that I loved the sweater and I wanted it to be for me. And that is how, again with the door, and they keep like opening the door and then closing the door. I think that was probably my son, who knows that I'm doing this. He's very encouraging because he watches a bunch of YouTubers. And I told him that I wanted to make a YouTube channel of yarn content, and he was like, "You should totally do that, Mom. That would be the total best." And yeah, so and then I told him I don't know if I'd be able to, because you guys are so noisy. I couldn't film. He's like, "Well, we could be quiet, maybe for like 15 minutes." Anyhow, so. Would you rip back? Would you call it multicolored stripes? I ended up purchasing 2 additional skeins to make this t-shirt. The pattern, I don't know if I said it because I feel like my door keeps opening, people keep spying on me, is the espresso tea. The designer is This Bird Knits. And then there's just a little bit of color work in it right there. And the color work is from a package of mini skeins I bought while I was in Toronto. And the dyer is Emily C. Gilles. I'm not sure where she is from. I don't know if she uses a French pronunciation of her name or an English. But Emily C. Giles, I guess if it's or Gilles, if she is a Quebecer. And then, of course, along with the rest of the world, I have started Clue 1 of Shawlography by Stephen West. There's not a lot going on here yet. Even though Clue 2 was out a couple of days ago, I am still on Clue 1. The green you might recognize from the sweater I'm wearing. It's the same defunct yarn that I can no longer remember the dyer's name. She used to have a yarn shop in my hometown and it closed down. And I should say, I'll save that actually for my yarn acquisitions. But this, I'm doing this shawl, and I started, and it was really fun to knit as I was just not really knowing what I was going to knit, and I've never done a surprise knit along. And I kind of lost interest though because I'm not really a shawl girl. I work in a shop that makes food, and I usually wear jeans, boots, and a sweater. That's my uniform. And I don't have a lot of shawl moments in my life. I have small kids who would always be taking it and using it for a blanket. So I don't know how long. I will probably not finish this along with the rest of you knitters knitting it, because it's really the last thing on my want to knit list, because not because the yarn's not beautiful, not because I'm not enjoying the actual process of knitting the pattern, but because the finished object doesn't really excite me. And I had mentioned before my husband came out that I had another finished object, and it's a Jessie May ribbed tank. I don't think that's what the pattern's called, but it's Jessie May has a lot of patterns that remind me of each other. So it's my favorite crop, my favorite tee, the bralette with a similar name. Anyway, I knit it for my daughter on Laura Knows Laces silk yarn that is also now discontinued, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful little tank. And because my daughter and her tank are upstairs, I cannot show it to you in the flesh. But I'll somehow find a way to insert a pattern, a picture, and the correct name of the pattern. The editing should be fun on this. This is a disaster. I hear a crow. There's so many cars going by. And now finally, for yarn acquisitions. I have a plan to knit the Petite Knits, what is it called? A sweater by Petite Knits. I'm not gonna get hung up on things that I forget. With this beautiful color. And I don't know if you can see without these colors are in my color palette, definitely. This will make my dark hair and fair skin just sort of like be illuminated. This color in particular is one of what I like to refer to as my power colors. And this is just going to look gorgeous together. It is, so my son popped out, and I heard about YouTube doing something weird if kids are in your video, like disabling comments. I watch a podcast about cut flowers, and sometimes she has her kids in the video, and because she has her kids in the video, they disabled the comments, and I really don't want that to happen because I hope to interact with people, and that's why I'm doing this. So I will cut out footage if my kids come into the... So my plan for this is a petite knits sweater. I feel like it's a very simple name, but it's a high neck, gorgeous classic pullover, and that's my plan for that. As soon as I get my current whips off the needles, and then my next yarn acquisition. I should say that because I am in Montreal, Canada, my local yarn store is Espace Tricot. So I did not get the Arietta Antilla at my local yarn store. I cannot find these local to me, so I ordered them online. But my local yarn store is the famed Espace Tricot. And I have their little shopping bag that says if I can't take my yarn, I'm not going, which is pretty well true. And my next plan of things I want to knit, my next knitting project will hopefully be the Guthrie sweater by Caitlin Hunter of Boyland Knits. And I chose these Julia Eslin colors for it. And I just think they're beautiful. And I think they bring out a pinkness in my skin, but not like in a bad way, not in a red way. I initially intended to buy this licorice color for the main color of the Guthrie, and then to buy a spin cycle yarn. But then Espace Tricot was bought by 2 of the employees, and they were having a sale, and they do not have spin cycle yarn there, so I couldn't pass up 15% off them. So I decided to go with Pinky Promise as my contrast color for that sweater. Will it end up happening that way? To be determined. So now that my kids are busting out of the door and my husband's gone to pick up my smallest, I'm going to call it a wrap for now. I will try to insert pictures of maybe the socks I knit for my mom and the tank I knit for my daughter. I don't know about my editing skills. I have never tried to edit anything. All of my pictures on Instagram are just iPhone pictures, maybe with an Instagram filter, but I can't get hung up on the editing of anything usually. So here's hoping that somebody will watch this and be kind about it. It is very, very new, and I hope to meet some of you in the comments. Be gentle, be nice. Maybe since the name of this podcast, even though I'm not filming in the evening and I have tea in a coffee cup, maybe you can watch this with me and have a glass of champagne, because that's definitely what I'll be doing this evening when I bust out my knitting. Okay, take care everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you.